So this is the light overshadowed evil panel. If you're thinking that sounds a little like the Ask, Marry, Kill game, that was kind of what I'm trying to do. So for those of you who are part of the internet fandom, do you want to talk about the Canada Geese since it's your story?
Go ahead and finish the introduction. Okay. I'll do the Canada Geese.
Sounds good. We did not practice, if you can tell. So there is a long-standing joke that the Canada Geese are agents of the lone power, to the point that there are a number of us on a Snapchat group that Brighton created. By the way, I'm Beth, TP Tigger.
And I'm Brighton, Punrise Nebula.
You know, I forgot something important there. But Brighton created a Snapchat group for a bunch of young Wizards fans, and every once in a while somebody will post a snap of Canada Geese, and either over voiceover, or if you're me and you don't like to talk on it, you will just put on the, thank you, Sonia, you will just put on the little strip the text, Fairest and Fallen, greetings and defiance. And Brighton has the best Canada Geese story there.
Yes, I do.
Perfect, thank you.
So, a very long time ago, in a very long summer, I was riding my bike to the local library about every week. Now, this library had a small pond just outside that was populated by ducks and otters and a very large flock of Canada geese. Now, up until this incident, I never paid the geese much mind. So there I am, minding my own business, a backpack full of books, and I'm just walking my bike along. It's a beautiful summer day, no indication that anything's wrong. And then from behind me, I hear, honk. And so I turn around, and there is a Canada goose in the middle of the sidewalk, staring at me, those beady little eyes. And I'm like, okay, hi goose. You know, walk on, honk. The goose is approaching. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? And then it charges at me. Now, adrenaline being what it is, I did not make the most rational decision. I opted to run instead of hop on my bike. This was not a good thing to do with an angry Canada goose charging me. I still don't know what I did to piss it off. Maybe I just walked too close to the babies or something. But I will spare you the details, but I do have the dubious honor of being able to say I have been goosed by a goose. And I have a scar to prove it. And ever since that day, I swear, anytime I pass a flock of Canada geese, be it on foot, on bicycle, in a car, in a train, in a bus, at least half of the flock will raise their heads, and all those beady little eyes will watch me pass. Wow. Canada geese are overshadowed, and the lone power has it out for me. Fairest and Fallen, greetings and defiance. I will cook you into Thanksgiving dinner.
Never heard them tell that well. So I'm gonna try to top that, but the one animal I seem to have a lot of bad luck with is squirrels, especially ones that have a little too much contact with humanity. I got stalked by one in Kensington Gardens once where it just kept following me. I can't remember how I ditched it now, it was a while ago. The stronger one though, this happened first, was in graduate school, University of Minnesota. It was a nice day. I'm just, doing my rotation. I needed food. You guys know me, you've seen me kind of having issues with that this weekend. And I go outside to eat because it's a nice day, and I'm sitting there reading. It was a Star Wars, I think it was a Rogue Squadron book, I don't know. And the squirrel keeps getting closer and closer, and I'm getting nervous. And I'm like, I don't like this. So I throw my book at it. I miss because I have bad aim. Squirrel saunters up to the book, sniffs it, goes, oh frick, you can't eat that, runs the other way. So not quite as evil, but something's not right there.
Well, I actually have an evil squirrel story too, in that several years ago, I was growing a pepper plant. It was my first time trying to grow anything, so it had one pepper on it. I was very proud of this plant. It was a jalapeno. It was about this long. It had no imperfections. It was gorgeous. I couldn't wait to take this jalapeno and harvest it and make it into salsa. So one day, I went out to water my jalapeno plant, and the pepper was gone. And I see on one of the posts of my deck this squirrel sitting there, holding my pepper. It's eaten about this much of it, and it made eye contact with me. So, like Beth, I threw the nearest thing at hand, which happened to be the empty watering can. Like Beth, I missed. And I still mourn that pepper. I wish I knew what it tasted like. God damn you, squirrel that was unaffected by capsaicin.
Okay, so on the other side of the spectrum, have any of you heard of the Emu War in Australia?
Yes.
Okay, several.
Yes.
I had not. Brighton had to teach me about it, and I went, oh.
Yes. So for anyone who isn't aware, a large emu migration was destroying crops, and so the military was like, ooh, free target practice. It did not go the way that they thought it would. So I could go on and on about the history of it, the different flanks of the war, but I just have one quote from an ornithologist. The machine gunner's dreams of point-blank fire into masses of emus were soon dissipated. The emu command had evidently ordered guerrilla tactics, and its unwieldy army soon split up into innumerable small units that made use of the military equipment uneconomic. A crestfallen field force therefore withdrew from the combat area after about a month. Because you see, in the Great War of the Australian military versus approximately 20,000 emus, the emus won.
We suspect that, okay, probably depending on which version of which story you're looking at, some number of the emus were probably wizards, and they saw invasive species and went, nope.
Nope. We are preserving what grows and lives in its own way, and these strange bipedal creatures that, with objects that throw lead at us, just have to go.
So these were kind of a couple of examples, and we wanted to sort of, rather than lecture at you for the whole time, especially since we kind of wandered into a panel for next convention, maybe, possibly, we hope. We would get into a discussion of other animals that we had brainstormed.
Yeah, we're hoping for a lot of audience participation.
Actually, I wanted to argue that Colin, I don't think geese are evil.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, you were just going near their territory. I mean, that's a response, and you're never supposed to make eye contact with wild animals. It's considered intimidation.
Well,
and
my issue is that even the ones that I did not make eye
They
contact
probably-
with, that I'm riding by in a car
Well,
later,
don't you
were
think that-
watching me go by.
And
Don't you think maybe they were watching the train or the bicycle, or just your hair is bright, so they look at that?
this is not a Pokemon battle.
Or, for instance, maybe that goose told members that, oh, this person totally freaked out, that was hilarious, and you're kind of like a meme. And
So you're telling me I'm a geese meme in Colorado, in Utah,
what? Well, they migrate, don't they?
Pennsylvania, in Washington and Oregon.
So
stay with them.
I'm so sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah,
Did you hear this?
I have various supporting evidence from the geese that inhabited the parking lot of my work where they were not supposed to be, but we will, let's just talk about the cats instead.
I can also contribute evidence to my friend in California who had a similar experience and is very bland.
Yeah.
Plus, I will say at that time, I had my natural hair color.
Right.
I was not paying any attention to the geese until it came up behind
So
me
don't
and
you think
started
that might
charging
be a
at
bit of
me.
a confirmation bias, where you think they're talking about you or something?
I mean, it could be. But
Yeah,
that's also not the point of this entire panel, so can
Yeah.
we please move on to the things that are the point of this panel? Thank you.
Crows
I'm
actually
just
do that
debating
though.
whether or not
They will tell each other about people's faces.
Yes, but crows are smart.
Cross generationally. It's crazy.
But crows are smart.
Yes. Smart enough to do it.
Yes.
Well,
I
so
don't
crows are smart. Do we think that they might be wizards?
That's what I was thinking.
Well, yeah, I mean, we have seen crows use tools, so maybe they get like human
I
wizards
think so.
using wands and things.
And they are smart enough to understand volume displacement.
recognize individuals, pass the information on among populations.
One question.
Yep.
One question is, would it be just crows or all members of the corvid family?
That is another good question.
Like, do you go by genus? Do you go by species? Do you go by broader? Like, how do you figure that out, right?
Ravens, jays, mockingbirds.
Yeah, but like when you're looking at like a choice for a species, is it species by species? You go by genus. Like, how do those dividing lines?
It has to
that
go-
is a completely different
It has to do with how many of the species I believe are sentient, and I mean to me that defines in whether some creature has a choice to do two different options, and they weigh them and potentially choose one that doesn't do as much harm. You know, since it's like an elephant might help another animal which isn't an elephant, but that's because it it cares about.
What about short-lived animals that are sentient? Like short-lived, you can't do wizardry. But what if they're sentient?
Well, but wizardry is latency, not
Cats.
Oh, no.
yeah,
Yeah.
latency. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
because-
kittens.
Like for example, octopuses, cuttlefish, squid.
Octopus are super
Those are actually on my list of things to
I
suggest.
kind of thought they were really long lived. I thought like that kind of sea
They
life.
are until they reach. No, they're not. Cuttlefish only live like 2 years.
Yeah.
Depends on if they have racial memory of the wizardry or not.
Yeah, maybe they have
Or how
short-lived. I
time
don't
looks
know.
to them. Because like if we look at like we know that there are wizards who are species that live a lot longer than us, and they have an inherently different time scale to us. In the same way that in the feline wizards books, the cats have an inherently different time scale. Days work differently for them
Yeah.
because their lives are shorter.
Although,
Right.
Yeah.
going back to like Suppleplot. Squid though, I remember were some at least some squid were like krakens and stuff were agents of world power in the second one.
That is this is the thing, but
Yeah,
there are some humans.
because there can be
Yeah.
individual members of a
Right.
species that are that individual is overshadowed. So that could be another explanation for that one goose that seemed to have a problem with that one human walking down the sidewalk. When I looked out that no from the window of the library, no other people were having problems with the geese that day. So it could have been that just that one goose didn't like me.
Or just was having a bad day, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Or the powers nudging you in the direction you needed to go in.
Run that way, that way.
I saw other
Bad.
hands
That's what I'm saying. There's
um,
hostile people that back that.
the one person whose name I know appears to have been distracted by a phone. So I'm gonna hands again, and I'll clean this somebody up. Cute.
Yeah. Someone mentioned the ravens and feline wizards and putting those together. They're mentioned in there, but I don't remember whether they're actually wizards or just wizardly adjacent.
It's ambiguous. I
Yeah,
think.
they got abilities, but not necessarily as wizards.
Yeah, I've only read the first two of those, and I read Book of Night Moon like 10, 15 years ago, and then reread it 6 months ago, and then to visit the Queen
That's the one.
a
with
couple
That's
months
one with
ago.
the ravens,
And the Big Meow is on this. I need to read it soon. I mean it.
Yeah, I have not read it either, and the last time I read the Cat Wizard books was several years ago.
The other thing about the ravens and the towers, those are in a very culturally and mythologically charged spot.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Right.
I was
Yes.
thinking that
Okay.
too.
Now that you say that,
That
yeah, the
could also
Ravens
be
were
an
kind of like
influence.
advisories, or they were kind of
Almost
peach-like.
oracular. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're almost like time lords.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's a good question. Dinosaur wizards.
Well, if you're talking about birds, it's the same thing.
Okay.
That's true. Good point.
Or no, petrosaurs.
Okay. Should we start throwing out some cats?
Yeah, unfortunately I don't know enough about dinosaurs to really start theorizing about the wizardry of them. If anybody is knowledgeable about dinosaurs,
We
would like
have
to-
an example in the feline wizards books for the Saurian wizards.
Oh
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
It'd be
Wait. Before you go any further, has anybody not read them?
I'd like to read them so.
And
Okay, then we will
let's
not spoil
not
Okay.
spoil that.
Oh,
So yeah. So
Cat
moving along to the cougars, I think you wanted to start with. Yeah.
cougars, lions, tigers. Oh my!
We moved the bears.
But
The joke was literally in the first draft of our outline. But
But can you be a wizard if you're a cheater?
oh,
Oh,
You
thank
ready,
you,
Kendall?
Seventh Seal reference.
Actually do want to suggest bears.
Yes, we do have bears on our list. They just, by our
Migrated.
organizational system, we're unfortunately not lumped in with the lions and tigers.
Yeah, bears are an interesting thought because they, right, like the mama bear is the mama bear because she has to protect her cubs from the daddy bear, which is an interesting phenomenon. I'm not sure you find in a wizarding species.
Then lions would be the same thing. Because lions, yes, if lions, in some circumstances, if there's
So
a challenging lion who takes over a pride,
Right.
he will kill the cubs and make his own.
Dolphins will do that too, actually,
Well, yeah, but bears will do that to their own cubs.
to their own too.
So maybe,
I see what you're
maybe
saying.
there is
protein is protein as far as the bears.
Of course.
a larger gender distribution in bears of mama bear wizards preserving life.
This also raised the question of what was the bear's choice like?
That is a very interesting question.
And I think we run the risk of an anthropocentric judgment system.
Yes,
True.
because I
And
was
also
going to say,
saying morality
Like
to
bears, like
True.
they're aren't really
Just
bears.
like,
Even
you know,
just
dogs, for example, if dogs, let's say dogs or wolves or something were wizards, if they are, maybe it's all smell based for them.
yeah, because even among, I'm going to talk a little bit about Honor Reveal, but not in any spoilery sense, just the variations in ordeals in between the three characters portrayed there. Seeing some non-human ordeals was very interesting.
Yeah, I don't want to, again, no details, but if you haven't read the Manfish one, don't try to eat while you do.
It's a personal challenge.
Yeah, it's it just goes to show how good Diane Duane is at writing non-human perspectives that really are non-human, and they're not just people with forehead ridges.
Because like we might think bears eating each other is horrific. Philippe thinks us eating salad is horrific.
Good
Yes,
point.
So there could be a cultural difference.
Right.
there.
Yeah, and we already have an example. I think someone else mentioned it, but it didn't get picked up. The wizard in the books who's of a species that does stuff that's really awful by human standards. Because dolphins are like nasty by human standards.
That's
But hotshot. Right.
Yes. Yeah, so we can't
It has to
always
do with the
apply
choice
human
that-
morality to other
Well,
species.
it's all again. It all has to do with the choice whether to do something bad or good. And if you can make that choice, you can probably be a wizard. You know.
And then
We're straying into
I was
has not
just
been
gonna
covered in
say
canon.
that it's kind of weird to me to say, oh, they do this thing, as if humans don't also do all
Also,
sorts of
true.
That's what I'm.
Well,
That's
good
what I've
point.
been saying. That's what I've literally been saying.
Well, there's. Right.
I mean, dolphins bully each other. I mean, you can't say
Yeah.
that's like normal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, can we think of any single species where it's like, yes, every single one of them would be a wizard because every single one of them is
Elephants.
a good person.
They have the largest. They have the larger hippocampus in compared to human proportions.
I think dogs.
I would.
I've been bitten by way too many dogs.
Yeah, I've been.
That's true. They steal from each other. They.
Not yeah.
I was thinking because of the empathy, but yeah.
Well, I mean, it's. You're Frenchie.
Yes.
Bonobos. Maybe bonobos.
What the fuck is a bonobo?
It's a really horny monkey.
Closest to their
No.
relatives.
Well, yes.
Monkeys like chimpanzees.
They're like pygmy chimpanzees.
Yes. What they do is they
sex.
The interesting thing about bonobos, they tend to be very friendly, not just in sexual ways, and they tend to be more. Well, okay, so they're like hippie chicks. People call them hippie. So that's why I wondered.
Well, I don't. I mean, we've never seen a choice go perfectly where the lone power's just sort of been sent packing with.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're gonna try to
Not even with the mobiles, I think.
Yeah, they're gonna try to tempt anyone.
Okay. They're in the back.
Waka
Yeah, probably.
I would not be surprised.
I don't think they're smart enough. I don't know if they're smart enough to have had a choice.
What, the koalas?
Yeah,
They
koalas.
poison all their lives.
Their choice went very badly.
Yes. Yeah, and that's another thing to consider too is, you know, what if a species choice went badly? You know, that could affect the individuals wizards that come out of it too.
Define badly, though.
What bad is
Hours.
Yeah.
Well, I think in the framework of the series, badly would be like an overall increase in entropy.
So something like Russia in Wizards of War.
Yeah, because I mean, if you had to choose between like having suffering and being like a mindless sort of like, you know, well, I don't know really what I don't know, some sort of sludge. I'd choose not being sludge.
Yeah. Devious.
I got to the panel slightly late because I thought the schedule was still running 50 minutes late. So I don't know if this has been mentioned yet, but bats.
There is actually a note on here. If audience contains dubious bats. Sorry. I do not see a Holland.
I love that. Thank you.
Holland is very good.
Yeah, that is a good question. Especially because bats is
They're the most diverse group.
Yes. There are a ton of different species in there.
Yes, and I think this comes back to the question of like, you know, did flying foxes have a different choice than fruit bats? Or did
fruit bats are flying foxes?
Vampire bats.
Okay, see, this is why we needed you in the audience to talk about them because I'm not really a bat
I could see
person.
vampire bats
versus
as
little
being
rabbits.
kind of like Ed. Not necessarily wizards, but it's the pain kind of thing. It's like the way they feed and ease pain.
And where do you work with the fact that vampire bats are actually one of the most altruistic species?
Yeah.
And anyway, actually, Ed's story was
Because they regularly will adopt orphans, and if anyone in the colony couldn't find food for the night, they'll like share.
I
They
would
might be
certainly
wizards.
say that they're not goose level of overshadowed, that's for sure.
Well, in
might
some
be
ways, Ed's
wizards.
story actually mirrors the whole sort of vampire narrative of a creature that wants to love but is incapable due to his bloodlust.
That's actually impressive when you think probably that they were called vampire bats because they have the big scary fangs and people thought they were going to get bitten.
Is that, well, I mean, they drink blood too, but I was thinking about how Ed's story resembles like a vampire paranormal romance, but platonic with Nita.
Huh.
Sorry,
I know that was a weirder take, I know.
Again.
My brain just went, but that whole thing didn't really kick off until the whole Vampire Chronicles thing, which I'm pretty sure was after Deep Wizardry.
It was, but again,
Vampires are always kind of.
Yes,
They've been around for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
well, not necessarily a sort of romantic entity, but I'm talking about like platonic sense of sort of this whole idea of love, though. That's what it felt. It was like, what does this remind me of, kind of thing.
Yeah, I've never thought about Ed's story that way.
I can see that.
Also, actually, my interpretation, I just want to say one last thing, and then I'll get off the stage or whatever. You get the hook ready. Is that my interpretation of Nita and Kit's initial specialties was that because of their father's jobs, Kit's father being working as a pressman, he had his son then had mechanical knowledge, and Nita's dad is a florist, so she is more of a attunement with flowers initially. But as they grow and mature,
That's sort of off topic.
Sorry,
so let's move along.
But that's a good idea for a future panel, so
And you should submit
Write that
to
down.
yes,
Yeah.
you should run that
I
panel.
have that on. I have it as a Tumblr post.
You should run that panel in 2 years.
Thinking about whether we divide by species or by genus or whatever, Deep Wizardry actually gives us a bit of a guideline there, because the cetacean choice seems to be for that entire family of creatures. It seems to apply to all species of cetaceans.
Okay, now
Because you have different species of whales and dolphins who fall into a family, not even a genera. Or genus, sorry.
yeah, so well then my brain, I'm trained as a molecular biologist, is I'm like, okay, so where do these guys fall on now that so when we created these Linnaean classifications, we did everything structurally. Now that we have really good sequencing technology, we can actually follow things from an evolutionary standpoint based on DNA sequence. And my first thought is, I wonder if the lone power made one visit to Earth and visited all the species at once, and there's common ancestors. And if that's the case, we know that mammals went back into the ocean before the apes came out of the trees, does that mean that we had this, that our common ancestor with other primates is the one that made the choice for all those species?
No, because I think we've had, talks, the books have talked about like the feline choice and the canine choice and
the canine choice was
Wasn't this canine familia's choice? I mean, I'm pretty sure wolves would have a different story.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Well,
yeah. So I think that it's probably more contextual than along any clearly defined, oh, you make a choice for this genus or something. Like,
I wonder if it's how they see themselves.
That's what I was thinking. It has to do with their perception, but others' perception of them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
you may not
so-
think we know now rabbits aren't rodents, but they might not see it that way.
Yeah.
There was also the question of, you were saying how far back was it when the lone one visited? Well, bear in mind the species also has to have a certain level of sentience or sapience to be wizardry compatible.
Right.
How far away from the main trunk was that branch when the choice was made, and then where did it split?
And I think the word of God, so to speak, from Dee at one point was anything at the top of the food chain was fair game to be a wizard.
Which only kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Because there's certain animals that aren't at the top of their food chains that are smarter than the things below them. Or above
Right.
them. Like that, you see that in birds.
I always took that as more of a starting point than the end all.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of topic.
Yeah, because all of this is very. The
Theoretical.
universe is infinite. Life is weird and wild. So I think the edges of this all get a little bit fuzzy and granular sometimes.
I wonder, like the Galapagos birds and stuff, where each island has its own version of, different types of birds. If they made the choice before they split into different species, does the choice stick with them, or do they get to remake it when they become different enough?
Yeah, how far does a species have to evolve before they get another chance at a choice? Or do they get another chance at the choice?
Or will they stay in fully automated space communism for the rest of eternity?
Does the dinosaur's choice still hold for birds? Or did they get a different one later?
Yeah, or does a wizard at any point remake a choice?
Yeah. Is that something that happened later? We see that happening
I was
too.
gonna say, look at Wizard Holiday.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a lot easier when your planet has one wizard.
It happens in Book of Night with Moon as well.
Yes.
And I won't say any more about
Oh
it.
right,
but-
yes.
Mm-hmm.
I've only read that one a couple times.
And that
I've
touches
not
even
read
more on
Bard.
this book we won't. Yeah.
Yeah. Where, since there are a few people in the room who have not read those.
You should.
They're
great.
You should.
Yeah, we recommend it.
We
I will not spoil
I
anything
still
for
don't
it because
know if there's any
they're worth it.
audiobooks even.
There is.
Yeah.
Yep. The first two are available in audio.
Yes, that's a very good rule of thumb.
And the narration.
Based on what I've been told, get trigger warnings for the Door into Fire series. But
Yes, that is true. But if you can handle them, they're good.
Well, the examples we've said though about stuff like the canine choice and the saurian choice, the Alalu choice, they were presented as being flawed somehow. So how do you tell the difference between a flawed choice that you'll have a chance to remake at a later time, and is there such a thing as a complete choice that's it forever? You don't get another chance. Can you remake your choice when you
I think
choose?
that the answer to that goes back to the first book. Don't be afraid to make corrections.
also, I think we see a choice in Wizards at War that got corrected. Before I blab end of book stuff, and show of hands, anybody not read that one? Okay. Okay. So we will.
Wizard's Holiday.
Yeah, but again, it was flawed in the beginning.
Yeah, that was so.
They set that up so that they could.
Remake of the choice or bullying of the lone power to get angry enough to make a new choice.
Yeah.
The full text of that doesn't make me out though.
Okay. Yeah. So that's why I'm going. Huh?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Definitely read that one.
I feel like part of it is it depends on just how loudly you yell at the lone power.
Yeah.
So,
Or
how much you piss it off until it shows up.
Or I wonder if there's any choices for a species that the lone power abstained from. Because
Is it possible?
that's possible for ordeals,
For
but
an
I wonder
individual,
if there's
can it
any
abstain from a
species
species?
that it was just like, nope, not even gonna bother with this. And on that note, also, lobsters. What the hell was lobster's choice?
They just don't die.
Also, naked mole rats.
Just a category unto themselves.
Yes. Tuttle.
I feel like there will never be a perfect choice and eventually there will be finding ways that you might want to fix. I feel like there will never be a perfect choice and eventually there will be finding ways that you might want to fix.
Yes, I kind of feel that way too. Like, even if you somehow managed to make a choice that in that very moment was perfect for every factor in the universe, life isn't static.
Yeah.
Everything else is going to evolve, and if things change around you, your perfect choice might not be perfect down the road.
Which we saw that.
Yeah.
This might not be where we want to go, but crossovers a lot with Ghost Wizards. And what on earth happened with Tolkien's elves?
I think that is a whole nother tangent.
Especially since we were given 30 minutes. And
Actually, I do have an overshadowed one. Is Rick from Rick and Morty an overshadowed wizard?
I have not seen that show, so I can't speak to it.
I have not either.
I think so.
Cam?
I don't know, I'm sort of going back to the discussion about the choice because I thought that was really interesting, but I feel like part of it is that even when you do make a good choice, quote unquote, someone's gonna get pissed off at you and try to fight back and mess it up even when it's lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like that's also another complication is that no matter how good you try to get it, it's going to try to find some way to take advantage of it.
And then I saw one more hand
I
over
think
there.
to bring in, but I'm supposed to be unconferencing right now here.
Oh, okay. So, guys, we need to wrap it up because we were only given 30 minutes and we're at 33.
What's your
Okay,
conference?
we'll make this our last one then.
Kit bashing, if you're familiar with it, how to make weird stuff out of trash.
I thought that's
question then.
Wait,
It's
my
going to
life?
make it
No, it's like taking two toys and sticking them
Since you
together.
can make bad choices,
My life.
and then the species can re-choose in many cases. Can a species that made a good choice go back again and make wrong choice?
Or he didn't say two kids.
Oh.
If you guys are missing from one.
That's food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for being here.